Alright, Shalom, giving all praise and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Hakadosh, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Shalom to all you Akim, pushing this word around the globe in faith and in truth and in sincerity. As always, I start by saying we are the real Hebrew Israelites, the true Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans, West Indians, and West Africans predominantly. However, you are going to have Israelites that look like the other nations because Israel has been scattered amongst all nations throughout our various captivities. But even though we may look like the other nations, if your nationality by your seed line goes back to the man in the Bible who is named Israel, then you too are an Israelite no matter what you look like, because your nationality is determined by the lineage of your forefathers. Your mother doesn't matter, but your forefathers is what counts, pertaining to Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18. So, I was just checking out some news articles and I've seen this one pop up on Sky News. So I thought I'd do a little lesson on it. Lord willing, it'll be edifying. So just bear with me, I'll get into this. This article is entitled Coronavirus. It's from Sky News. It says Coronavirus, the 5G conspiracy theory just won't go away. Here's why it's nonsense. And this is by someone called Alexander Martin, technology reporter. Now this is an interesting thing, because already you can hear a slant in the wording of this sentence. It says, the 5G conspiracy theory just won't go away. Here's why it's nonsense. So basically this person's already got an angle in his presentation of the information. You know what I mean? It's like he's already put in a slant trying to sway the people to believe that it's nonsense, when if he was just being impartial and just doing a neutral report and leaving people to come to their own conclusions, that would be, more professional journalism. But this isn't about professionalism in journalism. This is about pushing an agenda. And the agenda is to try and demonize anybody who says that the 5G towers are causing health problems is a crackpot or a nut or a conspiracy theorist. Now, Esau uses these slander terms in order to discredit anybody whose opinion he doesn't want to have heard. And he doesn't just do it in this context. He does it in every form, every way, shape and form. Like, for example, in denying our heritage, for example, in denying the fact that we are the true Israelites and calling us things like black, Latino, Hispanics, Africans, West Indians, all these names are ways for Esau to push his narrative and his agenda through his lies and discredit anybody who goes against what he says things are as defined by, what he says things should be defined as, I should say. And this is, basically like that film or the book, if you read the book, 1984, with the term newspeak, where Esau just pulls words out of thin air and he uses them in order to control the minds of the people. And that's exactly what the word government goes back into. It means mind control, government, control of the mind. And Esau is a master of that, because what we've got to remember is that Esau was a cunning hunter. Now, becoming a cunning hunter means that you're very cunning. Let's look at that word cunning for a moment. Let's get it here. Cunning, it says skill employed in a shrewd, sly manner, as in deceiving, craftiness, guile. Definition 2, adaptness in performance, dexterity. But it's the first one I'm really looking for. Skill employed in a shrewd or sly manner, I should say, as in deceiving, craftiness, guile. Now, what does the scriptures say? Genesis 27. 26, Salakia. No, 25. Yeah, here we go. Genesis 25 and 27, it says, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Now, Esau was a cunning hunter. We've got to remember that Esau is basically predominantly so-called white people, the nation of Edom, or Adawam in Hebrew. Edom meaning red. And the reason why he's called red is because his blood showed forth through his skin. That's Esau, and his descendants are the Edomites, who have the curse of biblical leprosy. So, yeah, let's get back into this article. So it says, why the coronavirus 5G conspiracy theory won't go away. It says, as a scientifically, let me look at this. I see this thing that says why you can trust Sky News. Let me click on this. The Trust Project. Sky News policies and standards. Sky News is proud to be a part of the Trust Project. To find more, click here. What's this about? I've never seen this before. I'm just exploring what it says. News with integrity. We all think we can tell the difference between opinion, advertising, and accurate news. But how do we really know? Now, wasn't this the whole title of that past article I was just looking at based all upon opinion? Ridiculous, man. It says who we are. The Trust Project is a consortium of top news companies led by award-winning journalist Sally Lerman. Now, first of all, a woman should not usurp authority over a man. Let me get that for edification's sake. Yes, let me get it on screen. This is 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 12. If I can get it. Bloody minds. For goodness sake. 1 Timothy 2 and 12. Slakia. 1 Timothy 2 and 12 it says, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman, being deceived, was in the transgression. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and in charity and holiness and with sobriety. So the scriptures say a woman is not supposed to usurp authority from a man. But who's the head of this so-called Trust Project? Some journalist named Sally Lerman. Let's look at her. If it takes me to... And who is she? That's a straight up Edomite right there. You know, the basest of all men. Does that look like a face you can trust? That looks like a demon to me, man, if ever I saw one. I mean, couldn't they have found a more flattering picture? And as I said before, you know, these so-called white people, they're not white, they're red. And this is actually quite a good picture to demonstrate that, because if you look at the vast majority of the screen, it's white. Then you've got these two lines of red on the left and right of this woman's head. And in the middle, you've got her red self. You know, so these people aren't white people, man. So it says Sally Lerman, Chief Executive of the Trust Project. Sally Lerman is an award-winning journalist, founded and leads the Trust Project, an international collaboration that she began building in 2014 to strengthen public confidence in the news through accountability and transparency. The consortium, which involves about 100 news organizations, which the vast majority of which are owned by Rupert Murdoch, let's just make that clear. So it doesn't matter if they're 100 different organizations, if they're owned by the same people, which then is ultimately controlled by the elite banking families. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make a difference if you've got 100 or if you've got 2, because they're all going to be pushing the same agenda, whether you believe it or not. You know, through different, like both sides of the arguments are being controlled and manipulated to achieve the agenda that the elite banking families want ultimately. Anyways, let's continue. It says, the consortium, which involves about 100 news organizations, has created a set of digital standards called Trust Indicators that help the public and news distribution platforms easily identify reliable news sites. Lerman provides vision and strategy, guiding the effort as it implements the news industry's first ever transparency standards for users to see and machines to read. Also, overseeing collaborative implementation and scaling among newsrooms around the world. Lerman was named one of MediaShift's top 20 digital innovators in 2018 for this work. Now, let me just say something. If you news organizations stopped lying and stopped pushing propaganda, people would actually believe in you, and you wouldn't have to do bullshit like these stupid trust initiatives and stuff like that. Maybe if you actually done real journalism and actual accountability, and were accountable for all of the things that you promote and push and all the agendas that you're perpetuating amongst the peoples, maybe people would have more faith in you. But the whole fact that people don't have faith in your journalism is because you've lied and you've been caught in your lies countless times. Now people are starting to be their own journalists. Now people have got mobile phones, they can record things that are taking place themselves. They don't have to wait for some flipping CNN news crew or BBC news crew to turn up at a scene to document events. Now people are becoming their own journalists. Now people are becoming their own news reporters, where the power is returned to the people. And Esau, Edom, and their establishment do not like this one bit whatsoever. And that is why they've made these things such as the Trust Project, where they're saying that the news can come from verifiable sources. Well, who gets to determine what's a verifiable source and what's not? If someone's speaking the truth, should their voice not be heard? Just because they don't have a degree or a qualification or a job in press or in journalism, does that mean that their opinion is worth nothing? No, not at all. In fact, their opinion is probably worth more than someone who has gone to university and become a square and a stiff and is for the establishment, who's basically sold out to the establishment, I should say. So let's continue. It says, major news distribution platforms, including Google, Facebook, and Bing, are external partners to the effort and use the trust indicators in various ways, such as in search results, news feeds, and display on user screens. Lerman is an award-winning reporter on medicine, bio. Now, these are all the things that Esau is being called out on. Lerman is an award-winning reporter on medicine, biotechnology, and science policy. Her honours include a Peabody Award. Who gives a fuck about your awards, man? It don't mean jack shit. But anyway, let's read this. It says, including a Peabody Award, Peabody Robert Johnson Award for Excellence in Health and Medical Programming, and Columbia DuPont Silver Baton DNA Files, S.P.J. Wells Key, the Society of Professional Journalists' highest honor, and others reporting and writing awards, and the Johnson Knight Fellowship at Stanford University. Byline credits include Scientific American, Nature Health, The Atlantic.com, Natural Medicine, The Boston Globe, The New York Times, Salon, and the DNA Files, distributed by NPR. Now this goes back into something in Ecclesiastes where King Solomon said that if a rich man speaketh, everybody holdeth their tongue, but when a poor man speak, nobody regards it, but instead they say, what manner of fellow is this? And if he falls, so if he stumbles, they seek to overthrow him. Let me get that, Lord willing. Where would that be? Maybe 11? Not that one. Let me just try and find this preset. Bear with me, Akim. Yeah, it's Sirach, Salakia. I thought it was Ecclesiastes. It's Sirach. And that should be 13:23. So this is the book of Sirach, chapter 13 and verse 23. Now let me read up a bit, because there's some further meat on this bone up a bit higher. Let me start from Sirach 13 and 20. It says, "As the proud hate humility, so doth the rich abhor the poor. A rich man beginning to fall is held up by his friends, but a poor man being down is thrust away by his friends. When a rich man falleth, he hath many helpers. He speaketh things not to be spoken, and yet men justify him. The poor man slipped, and yet they rebuked him too. He spake wisely, and they could have no peace, have no place." Salakia. This is the point. When a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue, and look and saith, look up. Let me start again. Sirach 13:23. When a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue, and look what he saith. They extol it to the clouds. But if a poor man speaketh, they say, What fellow is this? And if he stumble, they will help to overthrow him. So let me read that again, because this is the point I want to get to. When a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue, and look what he saith. They extol it to the clouds. But if a poor man speak, they say, What fellow is this? And if he stumble, they will help to overthrow him. Now this is a prime example of what's happening here with this woman. They're posting all her so-called credentials, and they're trying to make her out to be some sort of authoritative person in the field of journalism, which is nothing. She's just another fucking Edomite, man, who's sold out and is working for the establishment. It says, continuing on, she's the co-editor and co-author of Reporting Inequality, Tools and Methods for Covering Race and Ethnicity, Routledge 2019, with Venice Wagner of San Francisco State University, and author of News in the New America, a fresh take on developing an inclusive U.S. news media. She also has written several chapters for textbooks on covering the sciences. Currently, she's working on Skin Deep, The Search for Race in Our Genes, about the quest to address health disparities, for Oxford University Press. Lerman has long been involved in evangelizing journalism values, ethics and diversity, and a local and national leader in the Society of Professional Journalists and SPJ Foundation, and with other organizations such as the Maynard Institute for Journalism Education and the Center for Science and Justice at UC Santa Cruz. Now, let me see, is there anything that this woman hasn't done? It says current projects. Lerman's work includes, fuck this shit, man. Let's finish it for edification's sake. I mean, this is just like someone fucking blowing their own trumpet, man. It sounds all pompous and pretentious. But let's keep going. It says Lerman's work includes, through the Trust Project, engaging with news outlets and technology platforms around the world to collaboratively develop advanced methods to restore the public trust in news and create a news transparency and accountability. Her efforts have been featured in outlets such as The Guardian, NPR, The Atlantic, Associated Press, The Verge, USA Today, BBC, Fox 26, Forbes. The project received support from Craig Newman, philanthropy. Forget this shit, man. I've had enough. Let's get back to the main article, if it's even possible. So here it says the Trust Project. It says our original launch partners included DPA News Agency, The Economist, The Globe, MAL, Hearst Television, The Independent Journal Review, Haymarket Media Institute for Nonprofit News, Italy's La Pubblica, and La Stamp, Reach PLC, and The Washington Post. Search engines and social media companies are external partners. Our trust indicators are based upon interviews with real people who told us what they value in news and what they trust in, what we do. Over 2 years, the Trust Project researchers interview people in the United States and Europe to find out what's important to them when it comes to the news. Well, gee, that isn't too hard to work out. People want factual and truthful information. That's what the news is supposed to be, right? They don't want gossip. They don't want fucking talk about, who's done what kind of bullshit on Love Island. We don't want to hear news about how some mothers crying on television because they want their son to be addressed as a she even though he's biologically a boy. All this kind of bullshit. That ain't news, man. That's fucking gossip, and that's vain opinions and rhetoric. It's bullshit, man. So it says, let's keep going, yeah. Bloody hell, this is so frustrating. It says, over 2 years, the Trust Project researchers interview people in the United States and Europe to find out what's important to them when it comes to the news. It turns out that they don't just want to weed out imposters, they want to know who wrote or produced the story, what expertise they have, whether the publisher has an agenda. Transparency matters. Lerman took to the research and invited top news leaders around the world to build a digital standard that meets people's needs, the trust indicators. Fucking hell. How stupid do they think people are, man? What are the trust indicators? The trust indicators are standardized disclosures about a news organization's ethics and other standards for fairness and accuracy, a journalist's background and the work behind a news story. Leaders from 100 news organizations collaborated to create them. Again, if these 100 news companies are all owned by the same people, what fucking difference does it make if there's 2 news companies or 10,000 news companies if they're all pushing the same agenda? It doesn't. It says they're the first to give search engines and social media platforms the consistent technical standards they need to surface quality news. Our external tech partners are using the trust indicators to surface and display quality journalism. They include Google, Facebook, and Bing. And gee, I wonder who owns all these companies. These sites are the first to display and test the trust indicators. We aim to restore the trusted role of the press in civic life. We will strive to provide 1. Truthful, verified news and information in a context that gives them meaning. So this is just, if you're going to decide the context of the news to give it meaning, that means you're controlling the news. So this is your own tongue falling upon yourself. You just exposed yourself right there, man. Let me get that. You cause their own tongue to fall upon themselves. Yeah, this is Psalms 64 and 8. Let me get this. Book of Psalms 64 and verse 8. Actually, you know what, man? Let me read up because there's a lot of good stuff here. Let me read from Psalm 64 and 1. It says, to the chief musician, the Psalm of David, hear my voice, O power. In my prayer, preserve my life from the fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked and from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. Now, the press is essentially part of the secret counsel of the wicked. And it says, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. That's exactly what the press does. That they may shoot in secret at the perfect, suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily, or I should say privately, and they say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. Here's the point. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. So basically they're causing their own tongue to fall upon themselves. Let's get back into this. It says, we will strive to provide truthful, verified news and information in a context that gives them meaning. Lying sacks of shit. Part 2, it says stories, information, and ideas that reflect diverse types of communities and their interests and views. 3. Forms of civil exchanges and greater understanding of various viewpoints with fairness in mind. Well, I didn't see fairness in the original article I was looking at. 4. And a platform to uphold the public's interests, which includes holding the powerful accountable and shining light in unexpected places. Really? Donate. Make this is the joke, man. They're basically telling you to donate to them so that they can do their job properly. Why should you need to pay more money? Like, you buy your newspapers. If you're in the UK, you're paying your TV license to the flipping BBC. Why do they need more money to do the correct job? Do you know what I'm saying? You should be doing the correct job anyway. You shouldn't be needing donations. It should be just something that's natural to do fair and honest and truthful reporting. So it says donate, make news more transparent. We need to learn more and do more. Help the Trust Project conduct more reader interviews and develop better tools for newsrooms. Contribute, act. Become a Trust ambassador. Sign up for our updates to see how you can get involved. Follow us on the social, better yet, share the Trust Project. Collaborate, partner up. If you're in the news industry and you want your organization to participate in the Trust Project, see the collaborators section. This is bullshit, man. The Trust Project's initial funder was Craig Newmark, founder of Craigslist and partner of Trustworthy Journalism Initiative, Craig Newmark Philanthropies. Google was an early financial supporter as well. The project is also funded by the Democracy Fund and John S. and James L. Knight Foundation and Facebook. So let's go back to this original article. Oh no, hang on, let me read this one. This is about Sky News and policy standards. So lucky, this is kind of taking me off topic from what I was initially talking about, but this is interesting to examine anyway. So it says, Sky News is proud to be part of the Trust Project. To find out more, click here. Just did that. Mission statement. The Sky News mission statement was updated in 2018 and is proudly displayed at the entrance to our newsroom and embossed on the walls of our main editorial discussion space. I guess they're acting as if these are some sort of like holy 10 commandments or something that Sky News operates by. Again, I'm going to use the word bullshit, man. I ain't never smelt so much bullshit in such a short space of time in a long time, man. So it says, we aim to be the best and most trusted place for news, made by people who dare to challenge, made for people who want clarity in an uncertain world. No, there is nothing uncertain about this world, man. You know, the Bible says knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of our times, but unfortunately, these people don't seek out the book of the Lord and read. Do you know what I'm saying? If you knew the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, then there's nothing uncertain about this world because the end was declared from the beginning. The only person who sows discord and uncertainty is Esau because he profits from chaos. Esau profits from chaos and disorder. You know, that's his whole agenda. But, you know, Yahweh says, you know, let all things be done decently and in order. And when they are, there's no uncertainty, there's no confusion, there's no lack of clarity. So let's keep going. It says, made by people who dare to challenge, made for people who want clarity in an uncertain world. We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world. Our core values, these are our core values. We are bold, we are rebellious. Rebellion is a sin of witchcraft according to the Bible. We have a competitive spirit that drives us to be the first and best. We earn trust by behaving with integrity. We are pioneers and innovators. We blow smoke up our own asses. So I had to drop that one in there, man. We celebrate success together. We put people at the center of everything. Really. Which people? You know what I mean? You can't say we put people at the center of everything. Which people? There's 18 different nations on the earth. Are you telling me you put all people on the same level? Because it doesn't seem that way to me. Anyway, it says, We take policies. No, we take policies and business news seriously. We separate studios in Westminster and the City of London. Our correspondents are stationed in the United States, Russia, China, as well as Dublin, Brussels, Jerusalem, Istanbul, Delhi, Johannesburg, and Bangkok to provide local knowledge and understanding of global stories. Ethics policy. We believe that our reputation as a news organization is our most valuable asset, so it's vital that our journalism is always of the highest quality. Well, I've got a couple ways to prove that their journalism is anything but of the highest quality in just a moment, if you bear with me, but let's keep going. It says, whether watching on television and catch-up services, listening to the radio bulletins or podcasts, or reading our apps and web services, to anyone consuming Sky News should have confidence that our news is from a credible and reliable source. Yeah, Rupert Murdoch's and Reuters and all that shit. Journalism in the UK has never been under greater scrutiny, and this is why every news journalist working for Sky News must understand the legal and regulatory framework in which we operate and our own in-house guidelines and practices. We know that social media plays an important role in our daily and working lives, and it's important that we apply the same standards to all of our content on whichever platform we share it. To support these principles, we have published a clear editorial guidelines here. We also expect journalists to adhere to our Ofcom broadcasting code. And, there's just a lot more waffle here. I'm not going to read all of this crap now. Let's go back to the main article. So this was the whole thing I was getting into. It's coronavirus, the 5G conspiracy theory that won't go away. Here's why it's nonsense. And you've got this Edomite-looking character here, Alexander Martin, technology reporter, supposedly. It says, as a scientifically impossible conspiracy theory linking the deployment of 5G radio antennas to the coronavirus pandemic refuses to go away, Sky News explains why it's nonsense. According to the conspiracy theories that symptoms of COVID-19 are caused by electromagnetic radiation and not by a virus, these claims have now been tied to dozens of attacks on telecommunications engineers and masks in the UK, even as the information debunking such claims is widespread. The conspiracy theorists say, actually, I haven't seen anything debunking any of the 5G reports. This is the only article I've seen trying to debunk it. And to debunk something, you have to prove it as being erroneous, and I haven't seen any proof of that either. So it says, the conspiracy theorists, see that slanderous term, say the coronavirus pandemic is an illness caused by exposure to radio emissions from 5G antennas, despite these antennas not being present in countries such as Iran, which has seen a deadly outbreak. The theory has even been mentioned by This Morning presenter Eamon Holmes, whose comments on 5G were described as ill-judged by a TV regulator Ofcom. To support their claim, the theorists have pointed out that these antennas have continued to be deployed during the lockdown in the UK. They ask why network engineers aren't staying at home like everyone else, which is a good question. This is because the mobile network engineers are considered key workers maintaining critical national infrastructure. With so many of us working from home, it's crucial that the telecommunications networks are functioning, which is just a cover story. Sky News has found groups on Facebook calling for the harassment of these engineers and celebrating criminal damage to the masts, with one post claiming we are being murdered by the world government, a common trope used in conspiracy theories, and stating it's time to fight or die. In reality, the risks of electromagnetic radiation are known and understood by scientists, so that the power that telecommunications masts are able to broadcast is tightly regulated. Even though these protections are in place, some individuals have reported health problems which they claim are a result of being exposed to levels of radiation beneath these guideline figures. As the World Health Organization notes, studies on these individuals have consistently found they can't actually detect electromagnetic radiation any more accurately than individuals who don't claim to have a special sensitivity to it. The WHO reports that there are some indicators that these symptoms may be due to pre-existing psychiatric conditions as well as stress reactions as a result of worrying about health effects of exposure rather than being exposed. Now you hearing this, Esau's basically saying these people are making it up in their minds and that these people have psychiatric problems, and as a result of the stress, these things are just manifesting in reality because they're worried that they might be getting it. This is nonsense, man. Even then, the way that 5G could harm the body, which it can't, simply doesn't match the symptoms which COVID-19 patients are experiencing. How can electromagnetic radiation cause harm? Try and ask a cancer patient. Try asking a cancer patient who has had to go through radiotherapy or radiology, and then ask them how electromagnetic radiation can cause harm, and they'll give you 1,000,001 answers. Anyway, 5G is using a new part of the electromagnetic spectrum, the portion from 22 gigahertz to 86 gigahertz, although much less than this is being used in the UK. The radiation is incapable of breaking molecular bonds, knocking off electrons from atoms and causing the molecule to have an electric charge which provoke the main health dangers associated with electromagnetic radiation. The conspiracy theorists claim that 5G exposure leads to symptoms including nausea, hair loss, and bone marrow damage, as covered by Full Fact, the UK's independent fact-checking charity, which doesn't match up with the symptoms of COVID-19. These are, however, symptoms of radiation sickness or of acute radiation syndrome, almost exactly as would be described if someone performed a web search of radiation sickness rather than actually suffered from it. Even so, radiation sickness causes are almost always tied to huge nuclear incidents, such as the atomic bombings in Japan or the Chernobyl disaster, with rare exceptions such as the poisonings of Alexander Litvinenko, Slovakia, which isn't true because people die from radiation poisoning all the time. What are the symptoms of COVID-19? The strain of novel coronavirus, officially known as the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2 SARS-CoV-2, is believed to have emerged from a coronavirus in bats and crossed over into humans, potentially through intermediate species late in 2019. Just keep going. Coronavirus were named for the Latin word corona, which means crown. This refers to the appearance of the infectious virus under an electron microscope, which shows spike proteins emerging from the cell envelope and looks a bit like a crown. The spike proteins are molecules on the outside of the virus, which it uses to grab hold of and penetrate outer walls of human cells. Scientists have described these proteins as strong evidence that the virus evolved organically and was not created in a laboratory. Again, here's more spin. Two key factors in the spike proteins have allowed the virus to be so deadly, and also explain why the virus and not radiation sickness is responsible for the harm it causes. The first is what is called receptor binding domain, RBD, which scientists describe as a kind of grappling hook that grips onto the host cells, while the second is known as a cleavage site, a molecular canopy that allows this virus to crack open and enter host cells. Once the virus is inside the host cell, it can begin to replicate. The virus typically first enters the body through either the nose or the throat, which is where symptoms such as loss of smell and taste come from. If the immune system is unable to beat the virus back, at this stage it can then travel down the trachea and attack the lungs. Because the lung alveoli is lined with receptors that these spike proteins are designed to latch onto, they are particularly susceptible to the virus. But here the fight between the virus particles and the immune system becomes dangerous. The white cells fight the infection by dumping molecules called chemokines, magnets for other immune system cells which kill anything affected by the virus. So many dead cells are left behind, and the alveoli quickly fill up with pus and fluid, causing pneumonia in patients. X-ray images And CT scans of coronavirus patients reveal how their lungs are being ravaged by the virus and filled with a sticky mucus that prevents them from inhaling because there is no space for air. This is how we know that the virus itself, and not 5G aviation, has led to 165,000 deaths worldwide. Well, that's clearly being contested. Yeah, so wow, I've gone on a bit in this breakdown. I never intended to go on for this long, but Lord willing, it's been edifying, and I just want to get some precepts to end this because there's been a lot of Esau's rhetoric being pushed here. Let's get some scriptures. Scriptures say, "Never trust thine enemy." Never. And this is in Sirach 12 and 10. Beautiful precepts. This man is the devil, and he's come down having great wrath because he knoweth that he has but a short time. Wonder why they didn't mention the Georgia Guidestones in that article. Wonder why they didn't mention the depopulation agenda. Wonder why they didn't mention ID 2020 or the implantable RFID microchip, which is basically going to be powered by the 5G infrastructure. They didn't mention any of that, did they? So let's go Sirach 12 and 10. Here we go. This says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou had wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust has not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked wherewith. Who shall pity a drama that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh unto wild beasts?" So, I'm going to close this lesson out on that. Lord willing, it's been edifying, so giving all praise and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and shalom to all of you elect men that be pushing this word around the globe in faith and in truth and in sincerity. And I'll just say one more thing, man. Esau's having to push this counter so-called conspiracy journalism because the truth is coming out too much. It's like a tidal wave, and it's totally overflown and flooded Esau's whole game plan. So now he's having to do damage control by putting articles like this out and trying to get people, trying to re-win the minds of the people. But unfortunately, your time is up, man. Esau, this is your time to go down. Now's the time for Israel to rise. The true Israel, Yasharallah. You know, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, and the Native Americans, we're coming into our kingdom and our rulership, which is the kingdom of heaven. So once again, giving all praise and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and shalom to all of you elect that be pushing this word out in truth and in faith and in sincerity. Shalom.